Hi, everybody. We're here in week 6 to start our first of a couple of rounds of looking at Google. So for the next couple weeks, we're going to be talking about some of the advantages that you can get from using things like Google Docs and Google Classroom. And we're actually going to create some Google Docs and a Google Classroom in the next couple weeks. So Google Docs is a pretty fun and obviously extremely useful way to organize all kinds of different documents. It's not just Word documents. If you're not familiar with it, you're going to get a little bit more familiar with it during this activity. If you are, great. You're still going to be able to benefit from what we're doing. So I didn't take it at a very basic beginner level because I know everybody's all over the place. So we are going to use a template though, or you can make something completely on your own, and we're going to follow the hyperdoc model. So we're going to create something that you could actually use with your own students. So this actually might even be something you could use this semester in an observation or methods class that you might be working on, or just come up with something completely different, something you might put in your toolkit for the future. But Google Docs does obviously Word docs, but it also does PowerPoint style slides. It does numbers, spreadsheets. It does drawing. It does all kinds of cool things. And so we'll get kind of familiar with the concept of HyperDoc too within the framework of Google. So there are some basics about how to share that will be reminded to you a few times because sharing is probably the most important part. If you're new to Google, the big deal is that you can share it with other people, but by default, when you create something new, it is not open to the public to see. So in order to share it to everyone, you need to make sure you not only share it and get the link, but that you make sure that everybody can view it. At least. You can also open it up for editing if you want other people to be able to edit it. That's not usually necessary for our purposes, but if you want to say share this with a friend to collaborate with them, they would need to be able to edit that. So you need to make sure you set your sharing settings, and you'll be reminded of this many times because a lot of people forget, and then it makes it difficult for me to access your stuff. So make sure that you share your documents. You're going to be hearing it a lot. So our assignment, Google Docs. We're going to make a hyperdoc. And a hyperdoc is, it's sort of a little self-contained lesson. It's usually interactive in nature. And, it doesn't just have some links to look at stuff. It lets students collaborate. It lets them explore a topic. It lets them share back to you what it is that they have learned in some sort of a product. So it's kind of like a little mini web quest, which is something we'll do towards the end of this semester. But it's usually not a huge project that they're working on. It can be, but oftentimes it's introduction of a concept to get them ready to do a larger project. And they're often guided by the teacher. So it's something that might be up on the board, and if everybody's got their own device, they may be following along and typing in the different boxes when they're asked to, or whatever the case might be. Or it could be something that's worked on in small groups or even by themselves. So it depends, but hyperdocs are a little different from just putting a bunch of hyperlinks in a simple document. There's a little bit more to it than that. So we have some great resources to help you learn more about this idea, including from 2 of our local teachers, Nadine Gilkson and Yelena Byers. So they're both really, really great, having a lot of great information for you to take a look at. Nadine and Yelena both have some, templates to share with you. So you can actually download a template and edit that to get started with it. A lot of people choose to do that, but you can create totally your own thing too. As long as you're following the model, I'm not worried about which one you pick. But a lot of people do like the template. It's easy to get into and add your stuff to. What you do need to include, though, is you have to have an objective or a standard. So it can be one of your Indiana standards. So if you're, you might want to go out to the Indiana website, look up the actual standards for the lessons. Or you might write out your own objective. Try to write it out in measurable terms. There's a link about that, but you want to make sure that it's an active lesson. So instead of students will learn about, because learn, we don't like that word in our objectives, right? You've probably heard this before, but we want to use active verbs like students will discuss, students will explore, students will create, students will design, using active verbs. So keep that in mind. Maybe we'll explain, say, the parts of a sentence. Boom. That's a great example. And then we're going to try and follow that 5E model. So we're going to engage them, introduce them to whatever the lesson's about. Then they're going to have a chance to explore that topic, which might be, say, through a video or through some sort of discussion. Then you're going to explain what they're going to do with this information. They're going to apply and elaborate on what they've learned. And then they're going to create, evaluate something new to express their learning. So that's kind of the basic model that we're going to follow, which is a typical HyperDoc model. And many of the templates that you're going to see from our resources are going to have those things. Have at least some graphics, some videos, at least a couple things, but 5 is a good number. You could have one on each slide and you'd be done. And at least one hyperlink to some other Google file that you create. So you can always go into your Google Drive, which we all have as part of our Purdue accounts, but you might have a personal account too. Either way is fine. This is actually my personal account, but I can easily switch. If you have two multiples, then you can always switch to your other drive and you can see what's in that drive. So if you didn't know that, you can always click on that little icon on the upper right to switch your accounts if you have more than one. But in the upper left, in your drive, you can create new stuff. So this is where you can create a new doc or a slide or a sheet or a form or a drawing or whatever. There's a bunch of different options. So it could be just another doc with some cool stuff on it. It could be a spreadsheet that you intend for students to enter information into. It could be another set of slides for something else. Your choice, but you're going to want to link to that. So for example, if you make a doc, and here I'm making a blank doc, you would add your stuff to it. Boom, 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 whatever it is that you want to add, and then you got to make sure it's shared. So you're going to say, right now it's only private to me. By default, that's how they always are. You would click this after you give it a name. That's good. To bring up how to share it. And basically, just get the shareable link. This is pretty much the easiest way to make sure your link is going to be active, because now here's the link, and that's the link that you need for your linking purposes and also to share with me. But it's automatically set to everybody can view. So that way you don't have to worry about it not being able to be seen. You can also change these settings if you wanted to after this point, but it absolutely needs to be able to be seen by us. So make sure that that is there. Now, back in the assignment, you're going to see a few examples as well of what other people have done with this project. So I'm actually going to use mine as a starter because I can edit it. The other ones are really great examples, and they are at different levels of using templates. In a couple cases, they're a Word document even instead of slides, but you're going to see a lot of them done in slides just because it's easy to use. But here you go. Here's your slides. I did one on germs, so I found 2.1.3 in the health is describe ways to prevent communicable diseases. So since I teach health, that seemed like a good thing to do. This is based on one of Nadine's templates, by the way. It's one of her more popular ones, so it's certainly one to try. And then as you go, you just add your stuff to it. Give them some ideas about what to add, what to do, maybe give them a link. My link takes them to a quiz. Your choice, whatever it is that you want to do. And if you want to give them a different link, then you can certainly just paste in that big old link that we had. And that was this file that I just made. So see how easy it was to add that link. And then when you're ready again, you share it. So